time for another edition of The Flex. The absolute best fantasy football podcast in existence.
So I'll say this, not to say that I disagree, but...
I disagree.
Oh, my God.
Presented by Broadway Sports.
All right, Flexers ready? Yeah, it's Wednesday night. Welcome on into the Flex Live. We are here. We're going to cover some fantasy stuff for you tonight. Head over to BroadwaySportsMedia.com. Head over to shop.BroadwaySportsMedia.com. Get you some t-shirts. We keep preaching them every week. They're awesome. There's some more good ones coming up. I've heard there might be some Coach's Corner stuff coming on there for a shirt maybe. Looking at that. So sorry to plug my other show, boys, but excited about that as well. Go get you a t-shirt. They're good. Trust me. I said last night on Coach's Corner that they're so good, your significant other will steal them from you to sleep in. That's how good they are, and they'll never get them back. So guard them well when you get them. So if you're looking at the camera, you're a little confused. Your four hosts are here tonight, but with us tonight is Easton Freeze taking the place of Zach. He will be given Zach's pick. Easton, welcome.
Hey guys, thank you for having me. I can't wait to do my best Zach impression all night and be a stooge about everything.
Yeah, he's in rare form already. He's already playing the Zach role. We appreciate you coming on and taking the time on short notice. So when you want to bash him about his picks later, remember he's just filling in for Zach, which means it's Zach's picks that he's giving so we can have the record. So don't judge Easton too harshly for Zach's terrible picks since he was a loser last week. And two of us were winners. JG, high five, camera. There we go. You're not okay. Let me hang it. Cool. So let's get into it. Greenlaw, how are you doing tonight? Greenlaw's joining us tonight. Thank you for joining us, sir. I know that you're kind of dragging around. I think you got, what was it, the Ebola virus or something?
Black lung, actually. So
Black
yeah,
lung.
it's just something you got to soldier through.
Condolences.
Thank you.
You're going to make it through, and you're going to have some good picks and rebound this week as well. JG was able to make it through the LA smog, get here on time. In fact, I think he was an hour and a half early prepping for everything. That's great. And if you didn't know, JG puts together our intros for us. He's very, very talented. I got to get with him to do a better intro for me for Coach's Corner for our podcast because it's terrible. And even on this one, even though I said I disagree in this intro, still works.
I disagree. There it
I
is.
disagree.
The famous
I
quote that I'm
disagree.
going for. Sorry.
So one more for the fans. All right, so welcome into the Flex. We're going to get going then. We do have our sits and starts. And as I said, Zach's not here, but we're going to give the honor to start tonight. A start by giving his sit for Zach. Easton, we're going to go to you first and give your sit at quarterback.
All right. So my sit at quarterback this week is our favorite quarterback for the Detroit Lions, the kneecap snatchers themselves, Jared Goff. Jared Goff has had an pretty impressive first 2 weeks, 34 points in his first week, 21 points in his second week. If you watched him on Monday night against the Packers, it looked pretty good through about three quarters until the rain started falling and they fell behind. And then Jared Goff, right? They're playing the Ravens this week at noon on Sunday. I can understand if you're super square, potentially thinking, not a bad idea. If you're not got a top tier quarterback that you're trying to rock with, you've got Jared Goff on the roster. He's available out there to pick up. Maybe he'd be a good fill-in. Here's why Zach, I think that you should not start Jared Goff. Jared Goff, we all know, is maybe the epitome of a system quarterback in the league. And we saw it on Monday night. When he plays within the system and they're playing with a lead, looks pretty good. He's able to handle the offense. But when he is playing from behind, he falls apart. And what do the Baltimore Ravens do? They're front runners. They play from ahead. They're going to come out early. They're going to get a lead. He's going to be a disaster the entire game. Book it.
I disagree.
Just real quick, we might have something to say here because the one game that the Detroit Lions fell so far behind and were getting crushed was that big week he had for San Francisco when he got a lot of garbage time points. And if the Jared Goff knows one thing, it's garbage time because, well, he's garbage.
He's garbage.
Yeah, fair.
Here's the thing. I actually agree with Zach what he said. I think last week when or maybe it was 2 weeks ago. I think it was last week when I called Jared Goff a sit. He said Jared Goff's going to be a potentially good fantasy quarterback because he's going to get you a bunch of garbage time stats. And I feel like that's actually going to be true now. We see him here still in the top 12 after 2 games. What's stopping him from continuing to pile up garbage time yards? I feel like last week kind of worked against him on Monday night, staying close for as long as they did. I mean, they were doing pretty well at halftime that he didn't have as much garbage time as he would have if they were trailing at halftime. So I feel like going against what could be a better Ravens team than the Packers, I don't know. That's kind of up in the air right now, but I don't know. Yeah, I feel like
I think they're probably more well equipped to guard Hawkinson with Queen, but you would have thought the same thing week 1 with Fred Warner. So could be a potentially big time garbage points game, but at the same time, Ravens are going to control a lot of the clock. Who knows how much time Goff's going to actually have to pile up those garbage time points.
That's a
I
great
would play him
point.
if you're desperate, but like don't start him over struggling guys like Josh Allen, Dak Prescott, Joe Burrow. Like if you drafted those guys to be your QB1, then stick with them.
Right.
Well, and that's the important thing with Goff. If you think that they're going to have a garbage time opportunity, if they're going to be getting killed by the third quarter midway through, and he's going to be able to come in, have plenty of time on the field, a lot of snaps, and really, because you get behind far enough and you're kind of in a comfortable space, it's like, well, what's the worst that could happen? We're not really still contending in this game, so that's where the garbage time points come in. But if it's a game like Monday night where they're trailing, but they're not out of the game until the very end, and he continues to have to press, wouldn't hold your breath.
Yeah, it's all good points. And I forgot to mention earlier there for our listeners, viewers, excuse me. Wow. Listeners tomorrow, viewers now. Go ahead and get those questions loaded up for us. We're going to get them at the end of the show. Get your roster questions, your personal sit starts for your rosters. We'll go over those. We'll have time at the end, I promise, because we're going to motor through these. So get those questions lined up and ready to go. We'll keep track of them. All right. So let's move on then. So let's go with a start this time. Justin, who is your start at quarterback?
So my start this week, honestly, this one was kind of easy for me. It's Sam Darnold. I think Sam Darnold played pretty well week 1, didn't really get the fantasy points to show for it. He did have a rushing touchdown. Week 2, throws for over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he's got another great matchup this week. Well, I wouldn't say another, actually. The last 2 weeks, not the easiest matchups, but this week, I think the Panthers are going to do a pretty good little job on Thursday Night Football. They got the Houston Texans, who have played really well, actually, through 2 weeks. I don't think anyone expected them to play as well as they played. But then Davis Mills had to start playing, and now they're trash, and their defense is still bad. So I think we're going to see Sam Darnold hit his weapons quite a bit on Thursday night. I like him to be a QB1 this week.
The only thing that worries me for Sam Darnold is that they get out to such an early lead that they really back off, and he doesn't get the opportunities he has, because with Davis Mills starting for the Texans, I think those cracks are really going to start to show through. Because if you think Jared Goff is terrible, wait till you get you an eye full of Davis Mills. So that's my only worry there, is that, if they jump out so far that he's not going to get those opportunities, the running game is going to get going, and it's really going to shorten this game. But, maybe the Texans keep surprising you and find a way to stay in this game and keep it close, and then Sam's got to keep throwing. But it's a great matchup from just looking at who he's got to play against.
I will say that those checkdowns and dump offs to Christian McCaffrey are an extension of their run game. So even if they're up by a lot, he could still pile up the points with that.
Agreed.
Well, I think if we're assuming that they're going to win the game pretty comfortably, which is a fair bet if Davis Mills is playing, it really depends on what you think Carolina's coaching staff, where their head is at in terms of Sam Darnold development and making him comfortable in the system. On one hand, I could see this being the kind of game where that coaching staff says, this can be a real confidence boost for Sam. Let's do some things that we wouldn't do in another circumstance that is less comfortable in terms of a lead or in terms of a win. Let's get him comfortable with some different things. Or you could see it be the kind of game where they get out to a comfortable lead, and again, they just run the ball the entire time, and Christian McCaffrey takes over as a rushing leader. So I think it depends on where you think the coaching staff is with Sam Darnold and his development as the quarterback over there.
We're big Panthers fans. I know Greenlaw and I've been singing their praises, so hopefully they continue that run. So, I actually think it's a pretty good pick. So we're going to go over to the second sit with Mr. Greenlaw.
I am sitting Mr. Teddy B. He's been playing out of his mind this year.
Teddy covers. No.
I know. There wasn't a whole lot of guys I felt super comfortable with sitting out of this start list or out of the top 12, but Teddy B gets to face the Jets. They're the third best team as far as against the pass, but that's because they're so bad against the run. And that's because teams are piling up points early and they're turning the ball over, and the quarterbacks just aren't able to, go downfield on them. So I still think he plays well. I still think he's efficient, but I'm sitting him because I don't think he's going to have all the passing opportunities he had last week when he put up like 350 yards or whatever it was. So he's my sit for this week. I do like him. He's playing like insane football right now. All of his like peripheral numbers are crazy. Like average depth of target, insanely high. All these numbers are insane.
He leads the league in 20-plus yard completions.
Yeah, this is not like the Teddy Bridgewater we've seen at any of his other stops. So good job.
Yeah.
What's their Pat Shurmur, failed Giants head coach, former Rams offensive coordinator, all sorts of places. Who knew he was the offensive genius to unlock Teddy Bridgewater?
Not me.
But sit him this week.
Well, and then with Ted, you always got to wonder. I mean, not that you wish anything, but like he does have an injury history there as well. They survived some of their injury issues also to the receivers as well. They still had a productive week. So it's dicey, but I mean, like you said, and just to kind of back you up here, it gets a point in the time, especially when you're doing the sits for the top 12, it can be difficult to try to pick through that because there's good quarterbacks from 1 to 12, especially the deeper you go in the season. It's tougher to make those calls, but that's what we're trying to do to give you the ones to look out for that maybe, hey, if you've got a better option, you might want to go with those. Because obviously if you're picking between like Teddy Bridgewater and Jared Goff, start Teddy Bridgewater, in this case, but you just have to go and see. So what, JG, what?
Kirk Cousins is right there.
What time's he playing?
He plays not on primetime, so.
Okay, well, then I'm comfortable with that.
He's been good. Kirk Cousins has been good too.
He has, which just makes you think he has to be approaching that cliff to fall off, no?
No, they always have good. I mean, whatever you think about them, they're not going to survive, whatever. But the Vikings always seem a way to produce. So, obviously, so let's go on to my start. And guys, y'all know that I'm a big Justin Herbert fan. I called his phenomenal season last year. I was dead on the money, and so far, maybe he hasn't had the best. I think he's finished around 15 points each of his first 2 games. But let's dig into those stats a little bit. Just a little bit to give you some comfort. He's had 2 turnovers in those games, each of those games, so 4 total. So Herbert, that luck has got to change. So he had a fumble in the first one. He had 2 interceptions last time. Not only that, versus the Cowboys, he had 2 touchdowns called back on just some weird things. So that he would go from having just a mediocre fantasy day to a big fantasy day if he gets one of those 2. So or both of them. So that kind of stuff happens. Plus one of those picks happened on the goal line. So that's another touchdown that he could have had. So a lot of that stuff's working out. My point there is there's a lot of volume. He still has 40 plus attempts in each of those first 2 games, right? So they're not shying away from it. That's what that offense is. He's going to get his opportunities. Plus, let's take a look at the passing yards, 335 plus yards in each game as well. So the volume stats are there. The touchdowns are going to come. And here's the thing. It's a potential shootout versus the Chiefs with the way that the defensive plays. And it's the AFC West. These the scoreboard fireworks going to be going off. So KC middle of the pack versus the pass. They typically have struggled there sometimes as well. You get 2 offenses, high scoring offenses going back and forth. This could be a shootout. Like I said earlier, look for Justin Herbert to rebound, to match those touchdowns to his yards and have a big fantasy day.
I like it. That's another guy who started slow, who I would not bench for whoever I said earlier. Who was that? Who are we talking about?
How confused are you tonight?
I'm just saying that's another guy that has had a slow start that I wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, I should play Jared Goff over my slow starting QB1. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
That you were talking about Jared Goff, so that's a good point. I mean, these guys, you got to give them a chance to get in there. Plus, you have to dig into the stats a little bit and see is he got bad points because they're not really throwing it? No, they're throwing it, and he's getting some touchdowns. The volume of touchdowns will come in that offense, especially with the weapons he's got there and the way they did. And they've got to start using Austin Eckler to his potential as well, because he hasn't been the receiving threat of old that you're used to seeing out of Eckler, at least over these first 2 games. So that should change as well and give him some more options in the underneath, especially in the red zone. So
why would you even bring that up? Come on.
On our last show, you guys were kind enough to read off my picks, and my start at running back last week was Austin Eckler, and I put it in the chat below that said, Austin Eckler will catch 8 passes this week. Book it. And all 3 of you guys, well, Easton is Zach right now, so all 3 of you guys said, book it. He will not catch 8 passes. We got 3 little cha-chings, and Austin Eckler caught exactly 8 passes.
I'm sorry I reminded you of that, but I think I was with the I think I was just going with the crowd. I liked Austin Eckler. Trust me, I've got him on 2 fantasy football leagues. I wanted him to do well. I got a rebound in fantasy. Well, good grief. So that's our quarterbacks. We'll move on to running backs. I do see one question in the chat. We'll get to that later. Thank you, Max. So let's go on to our running backs here, and let's go back to you, Easton, Zach Easton. Who is your start at running back?
So the running back that Zach selected to start, and this hurts because, like you, Ryan, I have to rebound in fantasy. I've started 0-2, worst start of my career, and I have the other running back in the stable on my team. So I hope that Zach's wrong about this, but he's got a decent argument. The back is Javonte Williams, running back for the Denver Broncos. He's a rookie. I believe he was the consensus third best running back off the board this year, taken in an early round by Denver, coming out of UNC, played really well in college, kind of been expected to take over at some point this season in that Denver rushing scheme. And if you're going to try to be ahead of the curve on him really getting some production, because in his first 2 games, he's only got 5 and 8 points. They're giving him decent volume, nearly 15 attempts a game, but only around 50 to 60 yards these first 2 games. If he's going to have a breakout early in the season and you're trying to be ahead of the curve on predicting that game, this has to be it. Because just like Greenlaw was saying, I believe in the last segment, talking about just how abysmal this Jets rushing defense is, it is really, really bad. And part of it's not their fault. One of their best free agency pickups in the offseason goes down early on the D-line. In the preseason, they replace him. I believe it was Carl Lawson, now replaced by Shaq Lawson, which is not the same thing. And they're just really bad. They're just really bad with rush defense. So if he's going to have a breakout week, I think this is a pretty good one to try to guess.
Same reason Greenlaw has you sitting Teddy Bridgewater is to start Javonte Williams. I have a sit coming up at running back, but I agree with this 100%. I think it's only a matter of time before Williams takes over as the lead running back. I mean, 15 touches a game is pretty good as far as the fantasy running back landscape goes these days. So I'm into it.
I swear, not to say this because of anything else, but on Coach's Corner or something, we got to have Stoney on as a guest just because of the comments he always comes up with. Just at least for his quips, not to give picks or anything. Just it's always garbage time if you're garbage. Thank you, Stoney. Appreciate that. So keep those questions coming in. We're going to keep looking at them. Justin, I think you're trying to grab them and keep them for later. So thank you for that. So let's go on to one of our sits at running back, and let's go with Justin.
All right. So my sit at running back for this week is directly related to the start that Zach has listed. It's not based on matchup. It's based on what I just said. My sit is Melvin Gordon, who I started in week 1. He ripped off a 70-yard. He ripped off a 70-yard touchdown in week 1. But aside from that, he was pretty bad. And then last week, he was also pretty mediocre, like 7 points last week or something like that. Yeah. So I'm leaning towards Javonte Williams gets the blunt of the work. What's the word? Brunt of the workload here.
There you go. Very close.
And
wow, very confused this evening.
Not quite allowed yet.
If anyone's scoring a touchdown this week on the ground for the Broncos, I think it's going to be Javonte Williams. So I'm sitting Melvin Gordon. Not going to be the need for him to catch passes out of the backfield against this Jets defense. This ain't the week. This is just not the week.
So they're not going to.
Melvin did have 15 touches last week. Just throwing that out there.
He did.
So did Javonte.
Right. It's pretty even at this point. I do agree, and we said it this offseason, Javonte is going to take over this backfield, but maybe it's not this game. Maybe Easton can, drain a little bit more out of Melvin before his team goes in the tube.
Not my breath. It's already in the tube, so.
They're not going to pass Melvin the Blunt this week. All right. No,
Melvin Blunt off the table. Moving on.
All right, so that's our start. Let's see. Let's go to our next. That's our sit. Let's go to our next start, Mr. Greenlaw.
Yeah, I'm going with the tried and true. He failed me last week, and that's why I'm going back to him this week. Antonio Gibson. We're going to will him into this top 24 running backs. This show is going to will him in. I'm wearing the Washington football team burgundy. This is a big Antonio Gibson podcast. I realize he's going against one of the best run defenses in the Bills as far as fantasy points are concerned. Part of it's because they haven't given up a touchdown, either passing or rushing to a running back. But this is the week. We're going to get him in the top 24, going to will him into this. He's been really efficient, 8th in yards per carry in the league. He is 19th in rushing yards over expected per attempt. So, again, he's been really good. They just keep on taking him off the field for – that scrub J.D. McKissick, who I've said in our chat, I cannot stand that man because he does nothing that Antonio Gibson can't do, but they just love to take him off the field. So we're going with Antonio Gibson. I'm sure J.D. McKissick's still going to get his 20 points or whatever it is, but we're going to get Gibson into that top 24.
So my daughter, my 9-year-old, who's trying to watch football with me here recently, and she asked little questions here and there. We happened to be watching that game just right before bedtime for her, and when McKissick scored, I let audible, good grief. And I had said that I was rooting for Washington just because I had Antonio Gibson and I wanted him to do well. She was following along with me. And she goes, well, Daddy, that's good. They scored, right? You like it when your team scores? I said, yeah, but the wrong guy scored. And she just said, well, what do you mean? If the team scores? I was like, you're right, baby. Team player. You keep thinking like that. You're a sweet girl. So that was her first little experience. I didn't feel like explaining to her the ins and outs of fantasy just then and why I was so disappointed. But yeah, that was an eye-rolling groaner of a moment.
He's averaging over like 5 yards a carry, Gibson is, and he played wide receiver in college. Why wouldn't you see what he can do, as a receiver out of the backfield? And they refuse to.
Makes sense to me. I mean,
I expect Riverboat Ron. I think a big part of it, J.D. McKissick aside, and how they choose to use him, I expect him to get more volume purely because I don't see Ron Rivera not looking at this team and understanding what they have at quarterback right now. Capable, gamer. I am a huge Taylor Heineke fan, but against real teams, against real defenses, they're going to have a more measured offense in order to succeed, and that's going to require getting more volume in the running game.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan, for doing a little bit of a cacaw there for the St. Louis Battlehawk legend Taylor Heineke.
I wished I had it on my soundboard. I know you and I were on that train last year. Hopefully, yep.
Grab that.
All right. So we're going to move on to my sit at running back, and I'm sitting Zack Moss. And this, I feel pretty cheap about this one just because he was an inactive participant in week 1 for healthy scratch. And I never found a reason. I looked and looked for 2 seconds and couldn't find a reason why he was sat in week 1 versus Pittsburgh. But he's in the top group because of a 2 TD performance, which is the worry because he is that goal line vulture. But that didn't work out for him a ton last year because Allen also vultures those touchdowns as well. So those are going to balance out. He's not getting the lion's share of the runs or passes out of the backfield. He's number 2 in a pass-happy Bills offense. He did lose a fumble as well last week and was outgained 82-26 to Singletary, which seems to be the lead dog there. So Washington's 5th against the run, so I don't really like the matchup versus for the running backs on the Bills anyway. I think they're going to be throwing it a lot, obviously, and I think they'll use Singletary out of the backfield for the bulk of the game. Hopefully, he's not going to vulture 2 more touchdowns and make me look like a fool here, but that's my sit this week for running back.
I had started to type Zack Moss in the spreadsheet, autofilled his name, and I was like, someone already picked him. It's funny you mentioned Allen vulturing touchdowns. If you were watching that Bills game, right before Zack Moss got his second touchdown, Josh Allen had run it into the end zone, and he was ruled down at like the 1-inch line, and they punched it in with Zack Moss on the next play, which hurt my fantasy teams that have Josh Allen on them. But I agree with this pick. Sit Zack Moss.
In these first 2 weeks, your fantasy team would have been more hurt by having Josh Allen on them. So
true.
All right. Well, those are our running backs. Let's move on to receiver while we got some great momentum here. Keep those questions coming in. Thank y'all so much for pouring them in. So let's mix it up a little bit. Justin, let's go back to you and give us a start at wide receiver after a loser performance versus the Titans. This is who you're going with?
So my pick here for start at wide receiver is a guy who everyone drafted to be a wide receiver 1. He was mostly a second-round pick. It's not Calvin Ridley. It's DK Metcalf, who, yes, had a subpar performance against the Titans last week. Wasn't really there in week 1 either against the Indianapolis Colts. It's been the Tyler Lockett show. But I think this week against the Minnesota Vikings, whose defense has struggled to stop everybody, who got lit up by Kyler Murray and the Cardinals last week, I think it's DK Metcalf breakout week. This is the week you drafted him for. Don't be scared off by the first 2 weeks. Roll him with confidence this week, and you will be rewarded with lots of fantasy points.
he's not going to have defensive backfield legend Christian Fulton guarding him all game. So I'd imagine he has a better week than last week, right?
100%. That's the reason.
Are you telling me that mastermind at head coach up there in Minnesota isn't going to be able to get that defense turned around? I've heard all these great things, but I just haven't seen. Oh, bye, Ryan.
Ryan will be back momentarily.
Hopefully.
Power cut off, according to some.
That's not
Yes.
good.
Anyway, continue. We can do this.
I agree with your pick, JG. I think that the Minnesota defense has been a sieve. Their plan this offseason was to plug in like 90-year-old Patrick Peterson and at cornerback and be good. Not a great plan. They've gotten, gouged by everyone so far. So I like the DK pick.
I think players with podcasts not working out. We've seen Taylor Lewan struggle. We've seen Patrick Peterson struggle. Who knows what's going on?
I hate that we're linking those things, but I can't disagree with you.
There's no evidence to the contrary.
Joe Thomas has a podcast, not in the league anymore.
That's what happens.
Yep.
Jacob Sane says more like decaf Metcalf. Hey, decaf Metcalf up there in Seattle where they love their coffee. All right. Who's next?
I think if we didn't podcast, we would be in the league by that math, right?
Probably.
I think so. We could.
It's the only thing holding us back, I'm sure.
Well,
Why don't we
we
go
both have
over to
sits.
Greenlaw, why don't you give us a sit at your receiver?
Sure. I'm real bold with this one. I'm going with Zach Pascal against the Titans. So it could be Jacob Eason at quarterback. And if that's the case, I'm not going with any of the Indianapolis Colts weapons. So sorry, Zach Pascal, you're hitting the bench. He's only had 11 targets so far this season, but his fantasy points are so high because he has 3 touchdowns on those 11 targets. So I don't,
Insane.
That's crazy. So I'm not expecting that to continue against the Titans. I don't think Christian Fulton will be on him. It'll be Jack Rabbit, most likely.
With a good pair of shoes.
Who do you think it'll be? Or Elijah Molden, who can't keep up with anyone? Yeah. He's actually dead. I'm sorry. Justin Mello actually killed Elijah Molden. So we apologize to everyone, his friends, his family. You can go up to Canada, talk it up with the police there, the Mounties. So
Mounties, right?
Well,
Yeah.
you have to find a body to do that. And he gave him to a bear.
That's true.
Body to find.
Here's the thing. The Titans have given up 6 touchdowns through the air this year, the most of any team in the league. I think Zach Pascal could score a touchdown in the red zone for the Colts and still be a sit, still qualify as a sit this week if he only has 1. So
I think
don't
that's
disagree with you.
accurate.
But I think
If
he
it
will
was
score.
Carson Wentz, if I thought it was Carson Wentz, I might be a little bit more hesitant on this. But since I think it's going to be Jacob Eason, I don't think they're going to have a single, starter capable player on offense.
Yeah, as long as the news on Wentz continues to be negative, I don't see how you start anybody on that offense.
Well, yeah, apparently he's like going around on a hovercraft now. He can't put any weight on anything.
So he upgraded from the scooter to the hovercraft?
Yeah, it's completely anti-gravity.
He was actually at practice today without any boots, walking around on it, but it was very gingerly.
Did y'all see? I posted the picture in our chat, but did y'all see the stills of the way his ankle bent under Aaron Donald?
Yeah.
Ugh. And the weird part for me is that if you look at it, he literally threw the ball behind his head and almost still completed it. Just lucky son of a. Anyway, so that hopefully, I know I don't wish injury on anybody, but I find it very difficult to see that he'll be back in any way. So sorry, guys, I did cut out. We had a power surge here. It was one of those where it snapped off and snapped right back on. So I lost all connection. So I apologize there. Who knows all the rain.
Thank you for apologizing. We all know you cut the power at your own house.
No, it wasn't me. It was raccoons.
His bad cable management. He just kicked it out.
I've got them trained now. They've been hanging around so much. I just feed them to keep them out of my garbage, but they do little tasks for me. I need
impressive
next. So yeah, it's a whole thing here. Anyway, so I'm sure it's my turn for the start at receiver because I think you've covered Metcalf. And and we covered Pascal. So my receiver start for the week is T. Higgins versus the Steelers. Now, I know Jamar Chase is going off, and he's the sexy pick, but rookies can be kind of up and down. T. Higgins is a little more established, not by much, but he is. He did have I think a team-high 10 targets versus the Bears, so he's getting the lion's share of the targets. He did catch 6 of those passes. I think an increase in the receptions is coming because he's getting those targets. He's had a touchdown in each one of these games, too, so he's got a pretty high floor to get in there, so I really like him to try to creep into that top 24 for the receivers this week. Steelers are also 25th versus the pass. Only caveat to all this is he did appear after I made the pick. It did get reported today that he had a phantom shoulder injury that wasn't there after the game. So they had him out of practice. So just, even though I'm saying start him, obviously clearly monitor him throughout the week. And if he's a scratch, then obviously don't start him. Don't be like me and put someone in there that's not going to even play in the game like I've done twice this year already. Sorry. Busy with kids soccer and all that crap. But, he's interesting. He's an intriguing person if he's healthy and if he's going to play. That's all I'm saying. Just monitor that shoulder injury. When he is healthy, he is on the field for over 90% of the offensive snaps for that offense.
Yep. Very true.
I love my picks are so great tonight. You don't argue. There's no comments afterward. They're just
hard to argue with T. Higgins. He's awesome.
Or maybe they're just so bad. It's not worth the breath.
It's pity silence.
Yeah, there we go. Everyone feels sorry for me in my powerless house. All right, so let's go on to
as Jacob Sane said that Iron Man suit drains too much power.
It does.
That's the issue.
And that and the Boba Fett too. He really goes.
Which is crazy because Ryan's got like the Tesseract behind him that should provide infinite power.
Yeah, what the heck?
I think it would, but apparently I've got the one from the oh crap, I can't remember the name of the agency. The time agency.
Shield?
Whatever.
TVA.
TVA. I've got the fake one from the TVA. So anyway,
it's not fake. It's that
it's in the universe.
Yeah, magic doesn't work.
This is not a Marvel lore podcast. This is a football podcast.
Wrong
it
podcast.
Should be.
It's not even a podcast. It's a live show.
It will be a podcast as soon as we're done.
Yeah. Which is
not even tomorrow.
Confusing for anyone listening to it. For whatever reason, when we call out certain things like your background, your lovely Broadway background, or the big giant penguin behind Greenlaw. This is why if you're listening and you're not watching this.
Yeah, Degas, not a penguin. That's a Degas.
Degas.
And
Degas.
Hey, what should we name that? And then it makes that noise, and then they just named it that.
we do that, by the way, so that the people listening to the pod version are encouraged to tune into the live show where you can get your questions in and we'll answer them. But if you listen to the podcast, good luck.
And you know what we really appreciate? People. We would like you to listen to the podcast, but sync it up with your YouTube. So listen to the podcast and at the same time, watch it on YouTube.
Super smart. That's awesome.
Yep.
Double the downloads, baby.
That's genius.
That's what we want.
All right.
We're chasing
Easton. That's what I'm calling you from our show. Z Easton. Who's your sit at receiver?
So Zach's sit at receiver is Christian Kirk for the Arizona Cardinals. Kirk had a great first week against some garbage team. I forget who. And then his second week was really mediocre. Let's see. Who did they play against? Oh, the Vikings in that 8-man game of football that broke out down there in the desert. Kirk is a capable receiver. I just don't see him as startable under any circumstance. Even again, they're playing a really suitable matchup this week. They've got Jacksonville. We don't have to say anything about Jacksonville. So he's going head to head with old Urban down there, and as capable a receiver as he is, I don't see him as startable in any circumstance right now with just how much they spread the ball around in that offense. Arizona's weapons in the passing game on offense are kind of comparable to Tampa Bay's, in my opinion. Although the issue with that comparison is that Tampa Bay gets so much offensive production on a regular basis, at least right now, that I would be more comfortable with rolling the dice and picking one of their threats to go off on any given night than I would with Arizona. We saw how they started hot last year. All it takes is one little bump in the road for Baby Yoda for that offensive passing game to fall apart. So with Kirk, could he have a big game like he did in week 1? He could, but I really think if you're wanting production and you're not willing to take the risk of getting 6 points on any given week, he's the kind of player that 3-4 times a year he'll have like a 20-point game and then a bunch of 5s and 6s and be just entirely frustrating.
Rondale Moore season, baby.
Big Rondale Moore guy?
Yes.
No, not at all.
Oh, okay.
No.
Gotcha.
Actually,
He's
but
going to shatter into 1,000 pieces.
Until
You
that
keep saying
happens,
that, until it happens, exactly. They're using the hell out of him, man.
That's going to accelerate the process. But until it
Yeah.
happens, it's Rondale Moore season. As soon as it does happen, it being he shatters into 1,000,000 pieces.
That's
who knows what
awful.
will happen.
It's just a fact of life. He's the Marcus Mariota or Carson Wentz of wide receivers.
It's a shame, a bitter shame.
Not to say that I disagree, but all right, let's move on to the flex. Zach not being here, I don't know if that rings hollow, but just let's give it another one for Zach's absence. All right,
That was
let's move on.
better. I don't know what it was, but it was better.
It's better that time.
Yeah,
I
agree.
There's more emotion behind that one. Also turned it up a little bit. All right, so let's go on. Greenlaw, who is your start in the flex?
I'm going a little bit. Yeah, I'm going
Ryan
a little bit
is a
off
wreck.
the rails here with off the
Baby
radar,
Yoda.
off the beaten path. Going Alvin Kamara here. He had 12 touches last game. Little known guy, Alvin Kamara. I don't know if you even drafted him.
Where's he
But
playing?
I think he could, for the Saints, I think he could manage to be a flex starter this game. He had 12 touches last game, only 30 yards. Not great. But I think the Saints are going to realize we have to run our offense through Kamara because he's the only guy that we can trust on a regular basis. It's not Marquez Callaway, who got a ton of offseason hype. It's not either of their tight ends, Troutman or Juwan Johnson. It's not Traquan Smith. It's not anyone else. It's got to be Kamara. So I'd imagine they're going to force feed him the ball. I'd imagine he's going to have some red zone carries. This screams to me a huge bounce back game after like a 8-point performance last week.
Love it.
Yeah, you were just speaking Chinese there, listing all those players because casual fans have no idea who these offensive weapons are for the Saints.
Well,
but
they
that's do know this.
That's why they're not counting on those guys.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, that just listing off those other options alone, I think, is a good enough. Listen, if you're not already starting Alvin Kamara, he's a guy a lot like Graver was talking about earlier in the program. Is like, we know he's a known commodity. You can't give up. If you're already running around with your hair on fire about Alvin Kamara being a bust on your fantasy team right now in week 2, sit down and relax. He's Alvin Kamara. He's going to be great.
Or trade him to me. Do that. If you
Or
have him
actually,
in your
you're
league
right.
and you're freaking
Kamara
out,
is a
trade
bust.
him to me.
I'm willing to trade.
I won't stand for this nonsense. Greenlaw's gaming the system, and I disagree.
Let's hear him.
You guys are the fools that skipped over like Dak Prescott and Ryan Tannehill and all these
Hang
other
on, I
guys.
didn't
for your
make these
starts.
picks. Zach is a fool.
Objection.
I need
I'm
that.
just-
I need that recording. That was clean. I need that for later. The Zach is a fool.
Okay. Zach is a fool.
Copy.
We'll add that one to the board. That's a good one
Do
right
it.
there. Thank you. No, I'm cracking up because of the question to JG about it. Did your mom get the you assigned version of Rondell Moore's jersey? That's a callback. For anyone who's about JG's dumb luck getting people's jersey signed and them dying, going up to Canada and getting eaten by a bear, never being heard from again.
Ouch.
Good job, Griffin. Go back. All right, let's move on. So, Justin, since you are the hot topic there, let's go ahead and give your sit in the flex.
Pretty hot topic-wise. Corey Davis, sit him down. Great week 1, 2 touchdowns. Everyone's like, oh, look at this. Corey Davis, he's a wide receiver 1. Last week, terrible game. Deflected a pass that ended up being intercepted that he should have caught. Didn't jump at all. I'm sure everyone out there saw the TikTok by now, the Jets fan TikTok, who at the end of
got roasted by a 12-year-old.
Yeah, his incredible video at the end. He says Corey Davis has no hops.
He's got a future.
That kid has a very bright future as a Twitter analyst, I think, or maybe he'll do his work on TikTok. That's the future, right? Who knows?
Hope not, but
I don't do
I don't
TikTok,
know.
But yeah, I just don't trust Corey Davis. I don't trust this Jets offense. The Broncos defense is feisty, even though they lost Josie Jewell and Bradley Chubb for a little while here. I still think that those cornerbacks are insane. I know Corey Davis has roasted some good corners in his career, but those seem to be, few and far between performances. So I'm sitting Corey Davis. I don't know if I would ever start Corey Davis again this year. It just feels icky.
JG, hard disagree, dude. And I have one reason why last week I think was an aberration. Is Corey Davis a wide receiver 1 in the league? No, unless you're playing for the Jets. Unless the Jets are playing against a man named Bill Belichick, the hoodie doesn't lose against the Jets, and he definitely doesn't lose against rookie wide receivers playing for the Jets. Zach Wilson had the worst game he'll probably ever have in his career. Well, actually, he's got to play Bill Belichick twice a year, every year, so who knows? But he had an incredibly poor game. 4 interceptions in the first half or something. I don't know. I didn't watch. It was a dumpster fire. He threw 4 interceptions in the game. Corey Davis is, I think, by far the most talented receiver he has.
No,
I think that at this moment, I understand the upside.
Jamison Crowder's expected to make his season debut in week 3, which will only take away
is he coming back? Okay.
Corey
Well, I didn't realize Crowder was coming back.
So, and Corey has a history of roasting the Patriots. I know Stephon Gilmore's not playing, but if he can't roast the Patriots anymore, what can he do?
Well, if his quarterback is going to be that I don't know what can he do?
I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know Zach Wilson's going to have a great game against Vic Fangio either. He's one of the best defensive minds in the game as well. So I'm not sure it's going to get better this week. And after this week, I think it's going to be Elijah Moore's, offense anyway. He already out-targeted Corey Davis 8-5 this past game. And that's like his second healthy week. I think this is for sure Elijah Moore. And when Crowder comes back, it's not going to hurt Moore, who is targeted deep down the field. It's going to be Davis, who is targeted on all these intermediate routes. Elijah Moore last week already led them in air yards. He led them in targets. That's Zach Wilson's favorite target already.
Look at this guy.
I underlined before the show, pick up Elijah Moore if you don't have him. Before the show even happened.
Hear that?
Up on him because I'm expecting the rebound too. Thank you, Greenlaw, for confirming that.
All right, seems like I'm in the minority here. I might be really wrong, but if I'm right, I'll come back even though I'm not invited just to make fun of you all.
Zach will brag that he was right for you, I'm sure.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Hot take.
Credit.
Hot take. Drop Corey Davis off your roster. You don't freaking need him.
Don't do that.
No, don't even trade. No trade value. Just wait.
Drop
Let him. You
Just
don't
drop
need
him.
to pick.
All right.
Pick
I'm
up,
not saying that won't be true at some point during your season, but don't do it right now, please.
No, that's
pick up
really
Darius
poor
Slayton
advice.
instead, or pick up Cordero Patterson if nobody has yet.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Dang, who saw that coming? All right, Zeaston, give us your start.
Zeaston. All right, Zeaston's start at the sleeper position is Kareem Hunt, running back for
Are we on
the
sleeper
Cleveland
or-
Browns.
No, we're on
Okay.
flex. He gave the flex. He gave the flex.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I just said the wrong thing. Sorry.
He
So
did the-
Zeaston's flex choice is Kareem Hunt. He's been quieter to start the season, playing that backup role. Well, not bad. It's a weird situation up there. He's playing second fiddle, but not entirely. to Nick Chubb. He had a pretty good first week against Kansas City, even though he only had 6 attempts. He had a bigger workload in the second week against Houston. I expect the workload of both backs to be larger this week against Chicago for a couple of reasons. First of all, Chicago, if you didn't see it today, they're going to be starting Justin Fields this week. Dalton is still hurt. They did specify, I know this is very important, that hurt. He's the starter once he's healthy again, but depending on how well Fields does, he may never be healthy ever again. We'll have to see. But with Fields being in the game, I expect it to be kind of a rocky start for him, even though he's getting a full week of preparation. Listen, Fields is a really capable quarterback, I think. But I also think that Cleveland's defense has improved significantly. I expect them to give him kind of a hard time. I expect Cleveland's offense to have time. They already tend to dominate offensive time of possession in games. I think in this game in particular, they'll really dominate that offensive time of possession. And the reason that I think during that time of possession, they'll be using the running backs more is because last week in the game against Houston, quarterback Baker Mayfield sustained a shoulder injury on a tackle trying to do his best linebacker impression and popping his shoulder out of socket, apparently, and popping it back in. I believe the quote today from him in a press conference when asked about his shoulder was that it, quote, was still attached, which is really not all that promising in terms of it's great or it's feeling, no, it's just, oh, hey, it's still attached. Take from that what you will, but I don't think that that's super promising. It's not his throwing shoulder. So perhaps he has a standard game, but if there was a week to guess against him having an outside, and he never has an outsized workload in terms of passing the ball, but even less than he's typically producing, I think this might be a good week for that. And I think that shared workload increase will benefit Kareem Hunt.
And I think, Jarvis Landry's out. Odell Beckham might be out again. So they could use Kareem Hunt. We've seen it in the past more as a receiver
Passing
as well.
Game. Yes.
So since you brought up the Fields, can you just imagine the situation where Fields goes out and tears it up and has a great game, but then next week Dalton's healthy? Like, oh, we're going to go back to Dalton because reasons. I mean, can you imagine that fan base, what's going to happen to them? Because that has happened in the NFL before where the promising backup comes in, does well, but the veteran gets healthy and they put him back in. They are going to lose their minds if they do that.
Has it happened, though, with a GM and head coach both on the hot seat? Because their seats right now are white hot. I don't know if they can afford to go back to Dalton if Fields tears it up.
Generally, people that are on the white hot seat are
we say that their seats are white hot, but the way that they've been acting in terms of this quarterback situation so far this season indicates that maybe behind the scenes they aren't as hot as we think. If they really were trying to do what was best for the team, it stands to reason they would at least be entertaining the idea of having Fields come in and take over, right? If the idea was they have to produce this year and that's the only way they're keeping their jobs, why in the world would they be so adamant about rolling?
So, and you don't get on the hot seat. You don't get on the hot seat by making good decisions. So
true. Justin Fields was not good though last week.
No,
I mean, he
wasn't
worse than Andy Dalton. At least he threw the ball downfield, but he didn't take care of it very well. It took a lot of sacks, held the ball.
I said if he does well. I didn't say he was good.
I know, but to Easton's question, it's like maybe they think Andy Dalton's better.
Right. Yeah. And that could be the case. But these are also the same people that said, Justin Fields starting was scheme related. So let's not give them too much credit here.
All right.
And then had a PR person walk in the room 5 minutes later to say,
"You're right.
By the way."
I'm tired of talking about Chicago, a poverty franchise. Let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on to my flex sit. And to be honest with you,
I did that just for you.
So let's move on to my flex sit. I don't like this, but this I've got a lot of reasons here. It's going to be long, so I'm going to go long-winded. So just sit back, relax. I picked this, and I don't really know what I was thinking, but that's my reason.
Okay.
I don't like it. I'm picking James White for my sit in the flex, mostly because I was going to pick Damian Harris for my sit at running back, but for some reason, now that I look at it, I don't know why I did not pick him, but I went with James White because the Saints have been pretty good against running back. But then for some reason, I forgot that James White also catches passes, and he's a major threat in the pass game. Mac Jones is dinking and dunking all over the place to him. So I hate that I picked this here for my sit. Maybe I was confused. Who knows? Maybe I had some medicine in me. I don't know. But my pick is James White. Let's just go with the good old Ryan had a feeling about it, and that's why he picked the name. And maybe it'll work out for me. That's all I'm hoping for, because I don't like the matchup now that I studied a little more and looked into the stats and how they use him. So yeah,
You say let's just go with it. Maybe
let's just go
hear
with
me
it.
out. We just don't go with it because that's a really bad. That's just a bad pick. I'm sorry.
He's got more targets than Zach Pascal does. Plus, he runs the ball too. So yeah, pretty bad pick, Ryan.
But trust me, I do. But again, as JG's trying to get to, for some reason, one of Ryan's feelings always seems to work out. So maybe this is just my subconscious calling it out for me.
Don't go against Ryan's gut feelings.
So we'll see what happens there. Goodness. Let's move on to sleepers then. I'll go ahead and give my sleeper first, just to get it out of the way since I'm talking. I'm going to go with Devonte Smith because he was there and he was able to pick. He had a bad game last week as well, so I'm expecting a rebound. Remember what I said earlier about Jamar Chase and rookie receivers sometimes are up and down their first year in the league. So he had a bad week last week. I'm expecting an up week this week for Devonte Smith. Cowboys are 26th versus receivers in fantasy so far this season. I think it's a great matchup for him. I think I saw in the chat earlier, Jacob saying that Devonte Smith has a good matchup for your flex this week. I like it. I like that it's even in the sleeper, which is even less of a requirement as well. So I think that he's going to have, he's been the primary target for Jalen Hurts, even with the down week last week. He's still one of the primary focuses in this offense. So I don't expect that to be down every single week. I expect him to have a bounce back in an NFC North rival game that they're going to be going all out trying to put it to the Cowboys, and they're going to have to score a lot, so they're going to have to try to use that weapon. So I expect Devonte Smith to get a lot more usage, regardless of who's covering him, before you say it.
Why did I already talk about Trayvon Diggs? I don't remember.
We did before the show.
Yeah, pre-show.
That was before we started taping. Thank you for teaming me up there, Ryan. That's right. Trayvon Diggs has looked really good this year for the Cowboys. I feel like he's going to be on Devonte Smith in this game. I personally am sitting Devonte Smith in my league of record. I haven't decided if I'm going to start Julio or Gronk there yet, but how about Gronk? 4 touchdowns in 2 games. Anyway,
Gronk is back.
We don't talk about tight ends on this show.
What's a tight end?
He's too special to be a tight end.
His Monday Night Football appearance was amazing, by the way. But yeah, I am scared of Devonte Smith this week. But hey, if you feel it, who knows? You were 5-1 last week, just like me.
You keep saying 5-1, but I have his 4-1. Are you adding the tight end back into this?
No,
yeah,
you guys were 4-1. Yeah, you guys were 4-1.
4-1.
I'll take the extra win if you want to give it to me, but let's be honest here.
I'm taking it too, baby.
All right, Zeaston, let's give your sleeper.
Zeaston's pick for sleeper is Mike Davis, running back for the Falcons. This is less Easton and more Zach. I hated this when I read it, but I hated it a little bit less when I saw who they were playing. The New York Giants, who are terrible at football. I am so out on the Giants. And just by dint of them being bad at football and me having no trust in them, their head coach, their quarterback, either side of the ball, I don't hate the idea that, hey, maybe our good friend down there in Atlanta, Arthur Smith, gets something rolling in the running game. He's had some record doing that. I don't love Mike Davis as a player individually, but he is the person listed as running back on their roster. So perhaps he gets rolling if you're looking for somebody, if you're desperate, if you're in your 16-team league and that's who you're rolling with. There's some reason for optimism, I suppose.
I like Mike Davis here. He had to face 2 of the best rush defenses in the NFL the first 2 weeks. So I think people are, naturally down on him, but he's still getting a lot of touches, even with Patterson getting a bunch of receptions and some rushing attempts. Davis is still out targeting him and out rushing him too. So I think there's a good mix with Arthur Smith as far as like who's getting touches, but he's still getting a lot at like a workhorse back type load. So I like him against the Giants, and I like him as an RB2 going forward this year.
Actually, I think I'm getting done saying Jones is a terrible quarterback just because I don't think he's terrible. I mean, he's having a pretty good year so far.
I don't think he's terrible. I just don't like him.
Right? No,
I think he's gonna have a great fantasy week. And if he wasn't already the number 4 quarterback based on this year, I would have put him as a QB start this week. I'm all in on him against Atlanta's terrible defense, and I am a little worried he hasn't lost a fumble yet this year. That like this is the week he loses 5 fumbles.
It's going to happen.
He's due.
Yeah,
He's
we know
really
it's going to
due.
happen.
To focus back
But,
on Mike Davis, though, the reason I was
yeah.
saying that, not to be pro Jones or con Jones here and get down another rabbit hole, you bastards. Mike Davis, though, what worries me is if Jones continues his good play and they jump out to a lead, then Atlanta's trying to play catch up and they go away from Mike Davis. And I'm not saying that it's terrible for the sleeper pick based on the requirements, but those things, that's just the only thing that worries me. So instead of, that was his sleeper, and Zeaston disappeared on us. I can't say disappeared, apparently.
Hold on real quick, Ryan. Just to combat that, they were down big against the Buccaneers last week, too, and he still had 7 targets. So I'm not sure that even if they get down by a bunch, they're going to go away from him.
Fair enough. All right. So, JG, let's go on to who is your sleeper this week?
My sleeper is Jalen Reagor, and this is based on Trayvon Diggs shutting down Devonte Smith on one side, Jalen Reagor getting the deep targets on the other side. He scored a touchdown last week on a play that was pretty nice downfield. Made some people miss. Got in the end zone. So, I don't know. Shot in the dark. Let's see what happens. Jalen Reagor, baby.
I've been hearing positive things about Reagor out of Philadelphia. I like the team in general this year. I think that they are improved. Well, not improved. I think they're better than we expected them to be. So, I don't hate that.
I do hate it. I'm going with Quez Watkins over Reagor.
Who? Hang on. Quez Watkins.
All right. While you're looking that up, Greenlaw, why don't you give us your sleeper so we can get to the questions?
Oh, just the sleeperisty sleeper. Sleepy A.J. Brown is who we're going with. Due for a major aggression this week. So last week, this year, he's got I know, crazy bold.
Why? I've not heard that one yet.
I know. He is wide receiver 7 by air yards, wide receiver 15 by targets. He's getting 39% of the Titans' intended air yards, which is insane. So a lot of vertical passing. His catch rate right now is in the 40s as far as percentage of the balls he's catching, which is terrible. That's not going to continue. So against this really poor Colts pass defense, he's gonna eat. I'm sure it's gonna be a major bounce back week for him. Touchdowns, take the over. Yards, take the over. Lebowski and Zach are already in on that bet. Everything AJ Brown, take the over this week. And
This is abuse.
I need him to get into the top 70 here. So fingers crossed that happens.
This is abuse of the system.
Yeah,
We're 2 weeks into the year. So AJ Brown is, of course, not a top 70 running back / receiver / tight end.
Well,
this is on technicality. This is lame. Double thumbs down.
Yeah,
Greenlaw needs the help.
He's it was there for everyone except he picked second.
Exactly.
So Easton, you this year? Him? Why didn't you pick him?
Because I didn't make these picks, Ryan.
Greenlaw's 5-5 on the year. Ryan, you and I are 7-3. I think we can give him a couple little gimme picks like Alvin Kamara and AJ Brown.
I'll take 7-3, but I'm 6-4. But I'll take you want to keep giving me wins.
7-3.
I heard Ryan was 19-7 this year.
Yeah,
That's me. I'm the one who's 7-3.
Yes, I'm right behind you though. So thank you. But I want to
nobody can.
Mr. Greenlaw tonight for the deep dive in the stats tonight, sir. That's why you tune into the show, to get those hard-hitting stats and those reasons beyond just the feelings. So Greenlaw, great job bringing it there tonight.
Thank you so much, Ryan. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. You get my super weighted gold star for the.
Is that like a platinum star, maybe?
Super weighted. Wow.
Star. So let's get on to the questions. JG, I don't know if you got them or what. I know that I don't see them in the chat anymore because of my power outage situation.
Oh yeah,
I threw him in Slack, but
yeah.
I
So
can
let's
read
go
them
to
off.
Jacob Sains first. When is Jonnu Smith going off? He's on my bench behind Noah Fant right now, and he also said Javonte Williams flex week.
I would be playing.
Comments there on me.
I would be playing Noah until Jerry Jeudy gets back, I think.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say.
If you started him last week like I told you to in the flex, you would have understood that he did get his target still, and he did get me a win for that. So Noah Fant season until Jerry Jeudy comes back, because he's going to get the bulk of the targets until otherwise said.
Yeah, I don't think you play Jonnu Smith until you see it on the field, and that I don't know if that's coming Mac Jones has been really hesitant to not check the ball down on every single throw. So I don't know. Unless they start designing some plays for him, it's not going to be Jonnu Smith season anytime soon.
But I will say I think it's promising the idea that it could become, because again, Jonnu's going to get his routes aren't going to be vertical. He's going to be able to take those shorter passes. Mac Jones, his air yards average per pass is like 3 or something ridiculous. So his completion percentage is ridiculously high, overinflated. I don't think that it's the kind of situation where if you have him on your roster, you should be interested in maybe dumping him, upgrading elsewhere. I think that it becomes a situation where he could be a really valuable starter once Mac gets more comfortable in the system, passing the ball further than 2 inches in front of his nose. But I don't think until you see it, you can make that leap. I don't think there's anything that indicates this is the week for that.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's go on to the next question. Flicked submits Montgomery, Kyle Pitts, Stephon Diggs, or Juju. Oh, for Juju, Jamar Chase, Dalvin Cook, and Jared Cook, which side would you take?
What a blockbuster.
So Diggs,
I would rather have
or Juju, Chase.
I'd rather have.
I would rather
Montgomery,
have. Yeah, same.
Kyle Pitts, Stephon Diggs side in that one. So if you're giving that up, I wouldn't.
Well,
I wouldn't do it for Dalvin Cook.
Backs in one out of Montgomery. So why would you ever include him in a trade where you get less players back? I mean,
yeah, Montgomery is like a solid running back 1 right now. Kyle Pitts is basically a wide receiver 2. Stephon Diggs is going to be top 5 in targets at the end of the year. So I would take that all day.
Okay. Agreed. All right. So Jacob saying again, Herbert is a great pick. Thank you. I'm calling that out again because I know that was in congratulations of me. So we're going to say that every time, even though it wasn't a question. Stoney, you keep spamming those chats, those comments, man. That's what we're here for. Thank you so much for doing that. 15-15 does sound pretty even. Griffin, which 2 do I start of the 3 of Julio, Robert Woods, Cortland Sutton, PPR league? 2 of 3.
Yeah. You have to start Sutton. He's been unreal so far. And then I think you got to go Julio as well, just because we haven't seen it out of Robert Woods yet.
It's the Cooper Kupp show in LA right now. He's been having breakfast with Stafford every morning. So I think that, and that's real. I think that you got to respect that for now. I don't know.
I think they've been cuddling at night every night.
True.
In a snuggie. All right. Stoney asks, next question. Stoney asks, Javonte Williams or Elijah Mitchell? I heard Elijah Mitchell may have an injury, which I don't know if I was
questionable, but
questionable.
Yeah, they've also signed like 100 running backs this week.
Yeah.
Weird situation, right?
I'm not trusting the 49ers running backs right now, so I would probably roll Javonte Williams in a great matchup with the Jets.
I probably agree with that.
Agree.
Okay. All right. Jacob with the trifecta. Why does Shanahan hate Trey Sermon? Speaking of.
Well, it doesn't matter if he hates him or not. He's concussed, right? He's out for a while.
Isn't he on the IR?
I don't know. I just, as soon as I saw that play, I was like, well, he's never getting a Shanahan snap ever again after that.
Yeah. I mean, if that was me, I would retire. I would have retired. Not worth the brain injury there.
I think he clearly has to be. It has to be something, right? Because Shanahan can't afford to hate any of his running backs at this point. The way they're dropping.
Yes,
well, that's the beauty of the Shanahan system is he plugs in literally anyone.
Finds
plug
more
in one of us, and we'll be fine.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I could run for 100
quarterback at some point.
Yeah, he'll throw in Deebo Samuel at running back, and it'll work probably better than anyone else they have.
Well,
Trey Lance could play running back.
Yeah,
George Kittle running back 1.
There you go. So here's
nice.
Here's a different take on the question. That's actually a pretty good angle. Who finishes worse, Jacob Eason or Davis Mills?
Davis Mills. He's worse, and Jacob Eason gets to play the Titans.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Wait, is the question this week? Who has the worst week?
Yeah.
I don't see how it's. Well, I don't know,
I
man.
think it's
Jacob
Davis
Eason,
Mills too. He's got a super short week too.
He does have yeah. Carolina's defense is for real. If Carolina's defense wasn't as impressive so far this year as they have been, I'd be more tempted. I don't know. I really want to shit on Jacob Eason, but I can't.
That's gonna be your typical Thursday night game. That's just turn it off by the second quarter because it's just gonna be ugly.
Davis Mills played like 10 games in college. How is he gonna start an NFL?
How was he
game?
drafted?
Yeah, Texans, man.
Yes, Stoney, I have an Infinity Stone. I'm just catching up to these chats. Thank you so much. Got it right behind me. All right, so Stoney also wants to know Daniel Jones or Russell Wilson.
Well, Daniel Jones is more efficient of a runner than Lamar Jackson, right? But I think I'm going Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I think you have to go Russell Wilson again against that Vikings secondary. But I mean, I'm totally in on Daniel Jones as a fantasy starter right now. So
I think as long as it's still September, you have to roll with Russell. But I do like the favorability of Jones's matchup this week. So neither is a bad option, frankly. If that's your debacle right now, you're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on down, then Hurricane Lou, Danny Dimes or Jameis as a bridge until Lance starts.
It's got to be Danny Dimes, yeah.
I mean,
I hate this is becoming a Danny Dimes show. I really didn't. I did not cut. If you'd have told me, hey, can you fill in tonight? We're going to be talking a lot of Daniel Jones. I would have passed.
And it's sad because I'm really anti Daniel Jones. The guy's a fumbling machine, but can't argue with how he's played so far.
Yeah, exactly.
And
you can't argue with it. Could, but you also can't argue with Jameis like throwing for under 200 yards 2 weeks in a row and just looking like completely terrible against the Packers or not whoever they played last week.
Panthers.
That's good defense.
It's great against the Packers.
Yep.
Right.
All right. So, we got 2 more questions here that I can see.
Make it 3.
Oh, 3
got
more
one from Griffin.
Okay, I got you. All right, so let's go with Max since I know he was first earlier in the show, and hopefully Max is still sober and here with us. Is Jamar Chase for real in Cincy? I'll have Max on sometime and just let him go nuts on something, especially after a Titans loss. Maybe that dude's going to bring it. I promise. So is Jamar Chase for real in Cincy? I've got him on my bench currently, starting Ridley, Hill, and Julio.
I think that he is. He found a pair of hands after the preseason, and he's looked pretty good so far.
So so then who do you start him over in that bunch though? Ridley, Hill, or Julio?
I'm not starting him over any of those guys, but he is for real.
Yes. I didn't understand it was starting over those 3.
An embarrassment of riches as a receiver, to be honest with you. I mean,
yeah, that's crazy. His running backs are probably like Gus Edwards' ACL and someone else.
The good one or the torn one?
The torn one, clearly.
The torn one, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Timothy Chan asks, hey, y'all, should I trade away Evans, Sanders, A-Rob, and Rondell Moore for Eckler, Allen, and Chase?
Dude, these blockbuster trades, these people are like, hey, you want to have half my roster for half your roster?
Yeah.
What is this?
Here's what you shouldn't do. You shouldn't blow up your team after week 2, okay?
Yes,
it's been 2 weeks. You drafted these guys for a reason, didn't you?
Definitional overreaction.
Hold up, though. I would do this trade if I were him. I don't think Rondell Moore stays healthy. I'm not a big believer in Mike Evans. And Miles Sanders is, you don't know what you're getting week to week. So I would
like
take
Sanders.
I would take Eckler, Keenan Allen, and Jamar Chase over those 3.
2 Chargers? They suck right now.
Repeat the trade again. Repeat the trade one more time.
It's Mike Evans, Miles Sanders, and Allen Robinson. And Robinson changes a little bit, but not if it's like what they've been. And Rondale Moore for Eckler, Allen, and Chase. I think Eckler's a huge upgrade on Sanders. I think Chase and Allen is a big upgrade on Evans and a slight upgrade on A-Rob. So I'm not so sure. I hate that.
I don't agree with that second part right there. I think he's an upgrade in terms of potential points, maybe because of the passing situation that they're each in. But in terms of,
here's my answer: if you're starting all 4 of these guys, you shouldn't do the trade. If you're only starting 3, then maybe
I agree with that.
That's a good point.
And if you just picked up Rondale Moore this week and you're already trading him away, then good for you for capitalizing.
I agree with that 100%.
But bad for you for picking up Rondale Moore. If he's on your
bench, get rid of him.
And just if it helps you out, Timothy, know that Greenlaw is a noted LSU fan, so that's probably swaying some of his decision with Chase.
I mean, a little bit, but I do think the volume's going to be there.
Yeah.
All right. One last question that I see so far, unless any more pop in. Dak or Stafford?
Who do they play this week?
Yes, that's right.
I had it earlier.
We got another question too.
The Cowboys play the Eagles.
Okay.
On
And the
Monday
Rams play
Night
the
Football.
Bucks.
On Monday
And
Night
the Rams
Football.
play the Bucks.
Oh, that's right. How could I forget about that game?
I think I'd go Dak.
Yeah, I think I'd go
I
Dak.
didn't
as
like
well.
the Eagles in that game, but I actually would go Dak.
Agree.
We got another question from Ghost Viking. Great name. Any suggestions on what to do with Brandon Ayuk? Keep, drop, or beg for trade? Well, let me know how that begging for trade works out, because whatever tactic you figure out that works, let me know what it is so I can start imposing that on my fantasy leagues as well, because no one ever wants to take my trades, no matter how much I talk good about the shitty player I'm trying to unload.
Yeah, the
He's so good.
advice with Ayuk is just pull a Shanahan and yell at him for not being a professional and make him go last in his reps in practice.
I think you start him this week.
I don't think so. Don't listen to anything JG says.
Not
I
holding
would
my
bench
breath on
him
that.
and maybe try to trade him for something. But the moral of the story I'm getting is I'm not picking a 49er for the foreseeable future in the draft, because we have no idea, who's going to end up in the doghouse and for what reason.
That doghouse is big, isn't it? It's kind of strange.
Yeah, it's huge. It's half the skill players.
Yeah, I would say it's at least 7 of their skill players.
You better say you take their roster minus the doghouse minus the IR, and it's like 7 guys.
I can't wait till Jimmy G gets benched, and then we can see what Trey Lance does in that offense.
Gets benched or gets injured.
Yep.
It's true.
So as the look at the watch tells me, we are well past time here. I do have to get downstairs and pack for a trip tomorrow, so I'll be leaving. So I'll be out of town for that. But thanks for sticking with us, Easton. Thank you so much for filling in tonight for Zach. We promised Easton. I'll drop the Easton crap. Easton, thank you so much for filling in on short notice tonight. Much appreciated for you to do that. Follow Easton at Easton Freeze on Twitter. Remember to follow JG at Titans Film Room if you're not one of his 20,000 followers already. Greenlaw at Rob on Broadway, myself at Ryan on Broadway. Go ahead and check out our website at BroadwaySportsMedia.com. Check out shop.BroadwaySportsMedia.com, where you can still use code FLEX15 for 15% off the best shirt you will ever own. Get you 2 or 3 of them, because people will steal them from you. Check that out. But that's going to do it for us tonight here on The Flex, ladies and gentlemen. See you later.